we're back again, and this is basically part 2. Last time I explained sort of how I used some sounds and stuff, and don't worry if it wasn't clear enough, I'm going to do more of these because I have more songs to make, so look forward to those. This part is because I had one step left to do to finish the song, and this is sort of the mastering, which is like overall compression and loudness to a song. So in this program, this is your mixer, so it would be like if you saw in a studio, they have all these little sliders and they move up and down the sliders to change volume. So when you play a song, you see how you see how it goes that loud. There's something on it. So let's take off this. So what I'm going to do is actually reset this. I'm going to reset this whole thing to default, because we're going to do this right now, just so I can show you some cool tricks and mastering stuff that I've just learned on my own. So this part's the mixing, and I already did this, so all these sounds, like it's the certain loudnesses and the fit in generally the higher pitched sounds are already loud, so you don't really want to make them louder, but the lower bassy sounds aren't not really as loud, but they sort of don't mix as well, so you have to use loudness like to help you highlight those sounds. But that'll be explained more in other videos. This is just more about finishing this song. So this is low frequency, mid frequency, high frequency. That's what those are for. So we can actually solo each one just by clicking the solo button. So what we want to look for, so there's not really any lower frequency sounds in this because this is the beginning part that doesn't have it. Let's go to a part where that actually has lower in the song that has lower frequencies, and right here it does, because this is the drum pattern. And so we see that, right? So you can actually see this is the volume of the bass and the drums. So the point with this, when it comes to mastering, is you want to make the peaks, so this up peak, this higher peak and this lower peak sort of be in the middle and sort of even. But so we have to do that by compressing the sound. So what I'm going to do is turn on, this is the input peaks, but I just want to see the output because this is the change that we're going to make. So if I leave this on, it'll be harder to see the change, so I just turn it off. So this part is where this is sort of like a timeline, so this is how the sound comes in. So if I put a point here, it makes everything louder. You want it to stay on this equal line, and it doesn't mess with the frequency, because it's sort of like, I don't know how to explain really what that is, but it's where the volumes come in. So when you play sound, you can see the sound over here. You see how it goes up and down. So let's pause it just so we can see. So our lower one is at like 23 decibels. So this one's at 14, so we can even make this lower to like 8. Because if we go to 24, that's really, really low. And we don't want to do that because that'll just take all the like nice sounding stuff out of the louder ones, so we're just gonna bring it somewhere in the middle. This one is like the higher sound, like the louder ones. This is the quieter ones. So now we want to, these, theoretically, if these two dots are together, you see this really tall peak is now closer down here, but that's all the way squashed. So we don't want that. We want to still have some dynamic range. So well, at least I do. So I want to keep some of these louder. I want to keep some of these louder things louder and some of these quieter things quieter. But as we can see, we can bring some of these up. So if we do that, if you want to increase that, actually, that's why you go up here, because it'll increase those lower sounds. So we can do this a little bit, actually. You see, overall, it's sort of like louder and more even than it was before, because this is without before. You see how extreme it is. So now when this is on, it's more even. This blue line is where it's outputting. This is 0 decibels. You don't ever really want to go louder than that, because once you start doing that, it starts, your speakers start like crackling, and you can't, it gets bad. So we want to try to get as close as we can to that. By doing that. So you see it does that. So, as you can see, it's more even. So now we can just solo this. See, I'll turn the compressor off. And then we turn it on. Sort of the bass overall is better. And what I like to do is I like to make it more of a smooth curve. So I just drag these, like, the middle angle points. And I just make it more curvy. So that way it's not so jagged and it's a little bit more fluid. And now let's go something where there's the higher sounds. So we have that part, because now that has mid frequencies. And as you see, so if we solo this, it doesn't really have the kick drums. And that main sound is in the mid-range frequency. You see how quiet it is? And our kick drums were way up here. So that's where this compression comes in handy. So we want to put the point here. And to make, we don't even really need to bring this down, but I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. So we have that about there. And then we want to bring up the post volume. So it's more towards the but I personally want more of the deeper soundings to be higher, so I'm not going to put my mids the same as the low. But now it sounds just a little off and not really sharp. That's because that's the sharpness and how crisp sounds are in the high frequencies. So you can see there's no high frequencies. That's because we don't have any really high frequency sounds. So we're going to just see what we're doing. And you can see the peaks are like way down here. So we can actually do that. We're going to bring this down a lot, because when we raise it up, these peaks are going to be exaggerated. So if we make this louder, So this is our master, and as you can see, if we didn't so I'm gonna just turn the compressors off on these. And you can see this, how much change there is, right? And so I don't try not to do that much just because I don't know that much. So I tend to just do only that much because it works. And I don't really want to touch the master one because that would, at that point, it already sounds good, so you don't need to go any farther. And you don't need to try to just do all that stuff. So I just want to go over like a little explanation to help you when you're making sounds. And since we're working with just interesting sounds, like I said before, higher sounds are better higher, and lower sounds are better for making basses and stuff like that. But there's not really any rules that say you can't take a bird chirp and turn it into a bass sound, because I did that. And there's not really any reason that you couldn't take like a lower sounding sound and make it higher. That's what I did to make the bongos. So it's up when you have these sounds, you just like I showed before. This one brass sounding sound made 3 different sounds that are just different. They're all different. But look how much creativity added. There's so much characteristic that's not even an instrument. And you could do so much with those sounds just based on one recording. So it allows for just more creativity, and you're like, oh, this sounds like let's say, guitar, or some type of guitar, and you're like, oh, I could make a guitar sound. And you don't even need to worry about knowing how to play guitar. You could just use the chords. And then this is like I said, if we go lower, it's sort of like a tuba, so it's like, it allows for more creativity, because originally I was saying I was going in to make a tropical house, but it ended up just like reggae tropical house, and sort of just like, I would say, cinematic sounding stuff. So it just helped with the way I felt about the place I was at, and I think it aided us. So, and then we did our last step here, which was overall volume and sound changes. And so I'm gonna just save this, and I think we're good with that. So, I'm gonna just export this. And so that song is done. So yeah, thank you. This has been the making of The Park. If you have any questions or anything you would like to ask me, feel free to do so, and I'll get back to you. So yeah, thanks. Bye.